Get over here. We've been waiting for you. Welcome to the Sixers Talk podcast, brought to you by Wilmington University, WilMU Works, Danny Pommells, and Ben Berry, our producer extraordinaire in the cut as always. Welcoming in our special guest, friend of the podcast, formerly of Sixers Outsiders, of course, of the best show ever. It is Ty Johnson. You can catch him on 97.5 The Fanatic, NBC Sports Philadelphia, every weekday, sometimes on the weekends when they show replays and whatnot. But Ty, we are fresh off a Game 3 win, 102-97 by the 76ers. Holy Toledo. Man, that game had a little bit of everything. Ejections, scuffles, incredible shot making. And through it all, it seemed like the Sixers were about to give it up. But they steal victory from the jaws of defeat. Tyrese Maxey was magnificent down the stretch with no James Harden, with Joel Embiid playing one of the worst games of his playoff career. First impressions, what are you thinking about the most from this game? What sticks out to you?
Well, the first part is a win in the playoffs. Now, in the regular season, we could talk about, you let Orlando come back and you just won by 3. Oh, how did you blow that 20-point lead? In the playoffs, it's just about winning. So I start there with they found a way to get the victory. And honestly, this particular team would have lost this game last year, the year before that. Something's different about this team. Maxey being a better player, Embiid not having a good game, but getting that big block. So first thing was the win. But this was the weirdest basketball game I ever watched in my life.
Bro, the drama and intensity is crazy. So many places to begin. You mentioned Embiid, so let's start there. Of course, things are going to be different when you shift to the road. They head over to Brooklyn. The Sixers get 2 wins at home. Brooklyn clearly was trying to speed up the pace. They were trying to get scrappy and embellish maybe in some areas where maybe there weren't fouls called and get the referees on their side, whatever you want to call it. But they were making sure they were trying to get under the Sixers' skin in every way possible. And there's no one on that Nets team that you even really fear outside of maybe Spencer Dinwiddie and Mikal Bridges. I mean, the other people are just role players, shot makers, Royce O'Neal, Joe Harris. Even Nick Claxton is very one-dimensional if you really want to be serious about it. But through all of that, the Sixers were getting punched in the mouth. And nothing more indicative of that than when Joel Embiid tries to slow down Nick Claxton going to the basket, and give him credit for his athleticism and the type of player he is becoming, because he continues to improve every season, but he gets off the ground in a hurry, finishes the alley-oop in the rim, and Joel weirdly falls to the ground as he's dunking the ball. So that gives Claxton, if you didn't watch the game, I'm over-explaining it. When Claxton just takes a moment to step over Embiid, who's at his feet in the wake of this alley-oop. And Joel said, you know what? I used to watch those old Channel 57 Kung Fu movies back in the day, too. Because he goes Kung Fu fighting and just kicks and almost nails him in the groin. And that all hell broke loose at that point. I don't know how Embiid stayed in the game. I don't know how he didn't get ejected for some reason. And you could say that was a makeup call because later Harden gets ejected for a groin hit. So what did you make of the Embiid thing? And did you think the Harden thing later in the game was a makeup call?
Absolutely. So Claxton's wrong and was rightfully given a tech for stepping over guy. You're not allowed to do that. That's very clear. That even in the 80s, they would call the tech. They just if you started kicking, they just wouldn't call it flagrant after the fact, but they would always call the tech for stepping on somebody. We seen it with Scottie Pippen or Patrick Ewing. They're going to call the tech. So Embiid should have just let him do it. Instead, he throws the kick. I think, and I don't know for sure, I think what saved him was he kind of missed on the kick. He didn't really make big contact. So I think they were looking at the video and then looking at it 100 different ways, and they said, okay, the kick was flagrant, but since he missed and didn't really fully connect, we're going to call it a flagrant one. Mm-hmm. The other part is, while Embiid has the reputation as a troll, he doesn't have the reputation like Draymond of being a dirty player. And after the call, Embiid didn't go going to the crowd and yelling at him and trying to incite him like Draymond did. So I know there was people, especially on social media, trying to equate the two. Embiid's kick was nuts. Like it was almost to that area, but it was nuts.
A word to use.
It was nuts.
Quite nuts. It was all
right. But it looked like he kind of missed. He definitely looks like he missed. And I think that's why he got the flagrant one. And I was thinking maybe he'll get suspended. But now once Harden
that's the great question. Do we have to worry about that?
I don't think so.
Revisionist history when it comes to maybe they elevate it to a flagrant 2, maybe.
Now that could happen, and then he would get the fine and he wouldn't have to sit out the next game. That absolutely could happen. They're going to take some money from him for sure. But I think the Harden ejection saves Embiid because the league would then be punishing him. The league would kind of be punishing the Sixers twice because you didn't get Embiid, but you took Harden when you kind of shouldn't have.
There's a little bit of lack of consistency there. Even though Harden didn't miss, he nailed the groin. He got right where he wanted to.
But he got it. To me, I don't think he was aiming for the groin.
Yeah,
he hit the groin though.
Incidental. He wasn't purposefully trying to smack. I think it was not Finney Smith. It was a Royce O'Neal. I think he wasn't intentionally trying to, hit him. It just was incidental. So that's why it was kind of a surprise that he got the heave ho because you didn't throw Embiid out. Ala on the broadcast, if you were listening, mentioned the lack of consistency with the calls when Embiid didn't get ejected, but Harden did. One was intentional, one was incidental, and Harden gets thrown out the game, even though he hadn't had any prior, instances in the game where if we're talking about injections and people being thrown out, Nick Claxton gets his second technical and gets thrown out the game for flexing in the later, dunk he had on Embiid. So weird game, as you said, just a whole lot going on. And it's interesting because in all of that, the Sixers get the win. They survive that onslaught by the Nets, but it's something with these first round opponents, like their intent is to beat up Joel Embiid, and he's taking the brunt of all this ire from the opposing team. What do you make of that? The fact that we see the Toronto Raptors smack him in the face and break his face last year with Siakam, and then the Nets kind of roughing him up here. What do you make of that?
I think that, and this is the tough thing, I kind of used to like sometimes Shaq would dip the shoulder and take the flagrant early in the game to kind of let you know that that's going to happen. Right. Now, Embiid, by throwing the kick, it's the wrong way to do it. But I think he's saying you're not just going to step over me like that. The disrespect has been.
But he's got to keep his cool, man.
He was absolutely wrong. That was the wrong way to do it.
Composure, man. He can't let opposing teams know that he can be set off that easily.
Yeah, it was very foolish. Extreme. It's one of the dumber plays I've ever seen in the sport. To be honest, it was ridiculous that he threw the kick.
I don't know how he stayed in the game.
I don't know either. But I'm assuming the intent was you're not going to step over me like that. But it's almost like, and you see it with Maxey, like the Nets aren't really trying to win. While Embiid isn't playing well, the amount of attention he's drawing in all these games. Like he didn't play well tonight. I thought the 19 rebound game, he just let the game come to him, 11 shots. Tonight it was a little looser, but it's almost like their intention is to beat Embiid and not the Sixers. It's like if we beat Embiid, it'll just happen. And the disrespect of Maxey, especially in that first half, was noticeable. Like Maxey's really good at basketball. Do the Nets not realize that? At some point, maybe Embiid will just miss because this other cat's not missing, and they just decided to sell out to stop Embiid, and everybody else can kind of get whatever they want. And in the first half, especially, Tobias and Maxey were really getting there. Then Maxey has the cold third quarter, takes over in the fourth quarter. Did you see him face a single double team so far this series?
Right.
And he's cooking them. So it's like Embiid over everything. And obviously that won't happen against the Celtics in the second round because now we know the Sixers are going to get there once you get up 3-0. But it's weird to me how they're like, we're going to beat up Embiid more than saying we're going to go win the game.
Right. And to that point, it almost seems personal. It almost seems like it's not basketball. It's more or less like we're going to like demoralize or like undermine all that he stands for type of thing. Like embarrass him, step over him, flex on him. Like, and you mentioned the Joel trolling. He likes to talk, and we know him and KD, going nose to nose and things like that. So I'm sure there's been some discussions internally in that Nets locker room about Joel, and maybe guys don't like him and things like that. I mean, you could see some reasons if you were an opposing team of why it's easy not to like him. But all in all, with Joel having a bad game, Harden getting ejected, it was Tyrese Maxey, man. I think he went on a personal 10-0 run, there in the fourth quarter after they had fallen behind in that third quarter, and the Nets looked like they had stolen the momentum. Some big shots by Maxey, and it just was very indicative of what he's become. And you continue to see that there's still more room to grow with him. There's still more ceiling there for him to reach, because some of those rhythm shots and the way he takes it to the basket, and just how he plays the game and this tempo and things like that is just really remarkable. The step backs, just a pleasure to watch.
It absolutely is. We've seen this on some of the other teams around the league, like Reeves in game one with the Lakers and the Grizzlies, and he's telling LeBron and AD to get out the way so he can ISO and get his. He's talking about, I'm him. Maxey is obviously more established than a guy like Reeves, but it was late in the game. It was his game. It was his ball.
They needed it. They needed it.
Yeah. As Embiid's walking up, he's pointing to Maxey, like, get him the ball. Everything good is happening when he touches it, and it's great to see. And I think that in the doubling, the tripling of Embiid throughout the series is going to end up being a tremendous blessing for Maxey. For nothing else, the confidence going in against the Celtics. Obviously, the opponent completely different. How they defend, completely different. But I can't imagine he's ever felt more confident than he feels right now, like in this moment, playing the way that he has. And to see a young guy like him grow in the playoffs like this and make these shots, it starts to make you wonder, you know what? He didn't do it all regular season to get the Celtics, but if he can have a game or two doing this, the Sixers can actually do something. So it was huge tonight because they don't win the game without him. I think it'd be huge for the Sixers' fortunes of the franchise with him going forward in the playoffs, because nothing good happens if Maxey doesn't play well throughout the playoffs. He's that important.
No, absolutely, man. And styles make fights. So what you're getting from Brooklyn is, like you said, not going to be what you're going to get from the Celtics. And the Celtics are much deeper. Malcolm Brogdon, the NBA Sixth Man of the Year this year, it could be him contributing and tearing the Sixers up, or Derek White, or any of those starting five. So they are definitely a deeper team and will be a much different challenge. But if we continue to dissect this Nets series a little bit more, just another chapter in just a remarkably wild battle between these two franchises, with all the Jared Dudley stuff, the Nick Claxton stuff tonight, Harden getting ejected. There was a point where John Clark ran over in a tussle in Brooklyn
with Jimmy Butler.
Right. So it just, just a lot going on between these two series. I mean, two teams in this series and in series past. It even gave us a moment where, I don't know if everybody saw it, but when the Claxton and Embiid thing happened, Ben Simmons was up off the Nets bench trying to get Embiid thrown out. He was trying to give Embiid the heave ho. Like, you haven't played any meaningful minutes to do anything, but here you are chiming in on this situation. Like, sit down, shut up.
Right. Like, I noticed that. I'm sitting there going, hold on. You had more fouls than points to see.
Right.
And you got the nerve to be up here not helping your teammates that badly need a point guard, by the way. You see how their offense stalls for long stretches. You could be in here distributing to these guys. Instead, you chilling and try to make Embiid chill like you chilling.
Right.
No. Why don't you go get a jersey on and go after Embiid and get him out the game that way? What are you sitting there doing? Like that, it's been super wild against those teams. And I'm telling you, when these 8-year-old kids now, or these 10-year-olds get like 30, they're going to hate the Sixers. Because these are the kids that remember all this stuff in Brooklyn. When they get grown, they're going to hate the Sixers. They're going to look at Joel Embiid as the worst human being ever, because the Sixers keep coming on the winning end of all these series. And even when they put together that dream team with Harden and all them guys, they still haven't beat the Sixers. So it's just, this makes no sense that these series always end up having this stuff. But I'm just glad the Sixers keep coming out on the winning end of it.
We talk a little bit about Ben Simmons, who isn't on the court, and you would love to have seen him on the court to kind of pay off some of the back and forth between the franchises and him and Harden being traded for each other. But it is worth noting that this was Harden's return in the playoff series to his former stomping grounds, and we'll delve into that a little bit more. Let's pay some bills here. Of course, we're brought to you by Wilmington University. Wilmington University and students are in the game. Upskill in fields like cybersecurity, fintech, healthcare, and education, in person or online. Get in the game at Wilmington University. Find us at wilmu.edu. Injured for over 70 years, Lundy Law has been the #1 personal injury law firm in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware. Their services are exemplary. Their results are exceptional. Call 1-800-LUNDY-LAW to get the money you deserve. It's time to rush to new rewards at Rivers Casino. Now there's a whole new way for you to earn, redeem, and level up your rewards. Get your new Rush Rewards card and get more out of your game at Rivers Casino, Philadelphia. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Back here on the Sixers Talk podcast. And Ty, I mentioned James Harden and his return to Barclays Center. He was playing a good game. He had come up and hit some timely shots, and I didn't think that was going to be a victory for the 76ers after he got ejected. I thought that the tide had changed and it was in the Nets' favor. But what did you make of how he played until that point? I think we're on the same page as the ejection shouldn't have happened, but what do you make of the time that we did see him out there? And obviously he got ejected at the end of the third quarter. There's a lot more basketball left to play, so credit to the Sixers for pulling it out, but he wasn't playing too bad at all.
Yeah, James Harden, I thought, especially in the first half, was playing really, really well. He finally took some foul shots for the first time in the whole series.
I know, that's so weird. So weird.
And I just think that's ridiculous, but made a couple threes. I thought in the third quarter, he got a little ragged doing some of that Harden stuff, maybe holding the ball too long in the shot clock. But you have to live with that with him to a certain amount.
And the defense was what?
First half, he was actually doing something because he is strong, putting the body on some guys. It seemed like in the third quarter, he was like, you know what, I'm chilling on that end. and then as he comes down, it means he's feeling good. When he's feeling good, he does the breakdown, try to make that step back three late in the shot clock. That means physically, that means the Achilles and all that stuff's probably feeling good. The problem was it kind of contributed to the Nets going on a little bit of a run there because he stopped going to Maxey. Maxey had the 15 points. Part of the reason why he didn't score in the third wasn't just because of Maxey. It's because Harden didn't really come out looking for Maxey in the third quarter there. But overall, it was much better than game two. So the way I look at it is game one, he was hot, obviously, made the 7 threes. Game two, he was ice cold. Really, for the Sixers to win against this team, they just need lukewarm. Like, they don't really need him to be hot to win. Had he stayed in the game, I think that it's an easier victory. But I think he was in that lukewarm phase, and that's all they need against the Nets.
But maybe we don't get to see Maxey go nuts if Harden's still in the game. So I don't know. It might have. I thought they were going to lose when he got ejected, but I don't know if Maxey feels the need to kind of take over if Harden's still in the game and slowing down the tempo and stuff like that. So whatever it was, blessing in disguise, it worked out in the Sixers' favor. But none of that probably would have happened if not for PJ Tucker. And we know we made so much of an issue of what he did during the regular season, or more or less of what he didn't do, and his lack of scoring and, lack of contribution. But he was a playoff piece. They brought him on the team for when they got to the second season. They're here. And man, he was really leaving it all out on the floor. The second chance points, the second opportunities, the hustle. He did at times kind of look old out there, but regardless of how old he is, he's just willing to do anything that it takes to win. And that's why Joel mentioned him by name last season when the Sixers got eliminated from the playoffs, that they needed that type of player. And Tucker looking as advertised and just easy to get behind that type of energy.
Absolutely. And if you look at it, you had Embiid didn't have a good game offensively. Harden got ejected. They still scored 100 points. My point, 100 plus points. If they have everybody rolling, this is a 120-point game, most likely, 115, 120 points. And that's if PJ Tucker doesn't do anything more offensively than he did. The point being, this team and Doc Rivers, he does know how to do offense. I know people don't like to give Doc Rivers any credit, but generally his teams are in the top 5 offensively. What this team has lacked was guys doing that dirty work. Now, in theory, Ben Simmons would have done that stuff. But we know in the playoffs, he didn't do any of that stuff. Once he disengaged on offense, he wasn't getting you rebounds. He wasn't doing anything. Tucker does. He did all of those things today, and it also keeps the ball on your end. It's almost like getting a stop, because I remember even when I was grown up, when they were talking about rebounding, even in Little League, they say you didn't get a stop till you get the rebound. You didn't get a stop till you get the rebound. Well, the Nets on a couple of occasions probably thought they had to stop. Tucker brings it back out, and now they have to go do it over and over and over again. And when your team has more talent, you can just forget about it. I thought all year people were the criticism of PJ Tucker was overblown. Not that you shouldn't be frustrated when he misses a layup, not when he had those games when they didn't score, although they had a really good record in the games when he didn't score. He does a lot of things that don't just show up in the box score outside of offensive rebound. Obviously, we all see the offensive rebounds. I think he's going to be big. And if this team ends up making a run, PJ Tucker's going to be a gigantic part of it. And you saw it tonight. Game 1 and game 3 were won. The blowout was because of him. And tonight you won not just because of Maxey, in a large part because of him, as you just said.
I think during the regular season, I didn't think the criticism was unwarranted. I think the thing that I settled on was, does he need to be in the starting lineup for what he's giving them in the regular season? All that doesn't matter a bit at this point, because it's just possession by possession, win, survive, and advance. And here the Sixers are about to eliminate the Brooklyn Nets. Are you thinking sweep? Did you expect a sweep? What were you thinking coming into the series? And do you think they can take care of the Nets in 4 games and close this thing out?
I had it in 5 originally, but I thought that this might be the game they lose. They win the first 2. The Nets give their all in game 3.
Yeah.
Right. And then in win game 4 and 5 on Monday. I think it's a sweep now. And I kind of think it needs to be a sweep, because the Celtics, I think, are going to sweep the Hawks. And for a while there, I thought maybe Trae Young can have a game. He looks completely lost in that series. So in addition to the fact that there'll be underdogs against the Celtics and they don't necessarily match up very well, you can't give them a rest advantage by messing around and playing more games than them. And we saw what happened after they got up 3-0 against the Raptors last year. That's when Embiid caught the elbow to the face. I think that's going to be on their minds, and I think they take care of business on Saturday.
They're going to be rough as hell against Embiid. They were trying to mess him up. Very cool seeing this type of game in that Brooklyn atmosphere. A lot of celebrities in tow, and people enjoying the game. Mr. Whammy and all the excitement that you get with the Brooklyn situation. But oddly enough, Damian Lillard was sitting courtside.
Yeah.
What? Maybe he was doing some business in New York and decided to catch the game. I don't know who he's super close with on either team that would warrant that. He seems like such a to himself type of guy, but what did you make of that? Anything to read it into there?
I'm hoping that Dave finally realizes the truth about his situation in Portland. So I'm hoping he's there looking at possibly being in Philadelphia. Woj does the thing about Harden's going to be gone. All right, well, let's work out a 3-way deal to get Harden back to Houston, get Dame to Philly, and then figure it out. So that's part of the reason why I'm hoping he's there. He keeps saying the right things. Actually, at this point, it's not the right things. We live in the ring chaser era. People call people losers if they don't have rings. Like Russell Westbrook has averaged a triple-double 1 million times. People straight call him a loser because he doesn't have a ring. People didn't say that about Barkley. People didn't say that about Karl Malone. They said they didn't have a ring, but they didn't call them losers. They called Chris Paul a loser. Eventually, they're going to call Embiid and Dame and everybody else. If you don't win a ring in this era, you're called a loser. I hope he realizes that. He says, you know what? If Harden don't want to be around, I can slide right in Philadelphia. So let me go ahead and watch this team up close. When we playing, maybe playing with Maxey will feel like I'm playing with McCollum, but younger. I'm hoping that's why he was there. It is a little weird that he was in there. There's no way he just wants to go to the Nets because him plus the Nets doesn't win him anything. They'd be better than they are now, but they wouldn't win a title.
He got treated to a good game, though. I hope he stayed for the whole thing because it was a mess. I thought that at a moment there that Doc Rivers was going to get outdone, but give him credit, as you mentioned. Maybe not. We're not giving enough credit to Doc Rivers and the way he schemed a few of those, coming out of timeout plays. And Obviously, all coaches are only as good as their players, but it was a night where the Sixers came out victorious, and Doc Rivers definitely helped them reach that end result.
Yeah, for sure. And you saw late with the confusion on the net side coming out of the timeout late, where Melton ends up getting the steal to finally, when they were up 3 and puts them up 5. When you look at your opponent, you also saw that he has anticipated that the way they're going to treat Embiid. The reason his offense looks the way it does, it seems to me like it was intentional, like that Embiid's going to be other places in the middle of the court, kind of, sort of. So when they double, he can either pass left or right, and he's not trapping himself by being in the block or being in the corner, etc. That's all by a lot of that is by design. And when they come to him, Embiid by and large has made the smart pass. They haven't all led to assists, but he hasn't really forced a lot of things against those double teams. I think that goes back to coaching as well. I'm sure that it's probably frustrating for Embiid, and it's definitely frustrating for fans when you see Embiid not active in the game plan each possession. There was a whole bunch of possessions where maybe he didn't even touch it when Harden was in the game. But I think a lot of that was by design because he knew what Jock Vaughn was going to try to do, and I have to give Doc Rivers some credit for that. Now, if he loses to the Celtics, we'd be back to yelling at him again. But I think for now, I think he does deserve credit for what they do, because it does look like the Sixers have a plan. And when they're not making mistakes themselves, the plan has looked pretty good so far through the 3 games.
Janet Jackson said it best. What have you done for me lately? And lately, Doc Rivers ain't so bad. So we'll take him at his merits for right now. We won't project toward the future. But Ty, always fun doing the podcast with you, and appreciate you hopping on with us. Be sure to check out Noah Levick's work on NBCSportsPhiladelphia.com. He's busy typing away as we speak. For Ben Berry, this has been the Sixers Talk podcast. I'm Danny Pommells. We will see you next time. Sixers going for the sweep, and the Celtics waiting in the wings.